Based on conflicting pieces of evidence, it appears as though Diablo 2 Resurrected is Schrodinger's remaster, existing in some nebulous state of being both alive and dead. Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include the latest on the alleged Diablo 2 remaster, the new Diablo 4 dev update, the new Cyberpunk 2077 trailer, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the video description below, but right before we skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. Now, before we move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, Squarespace, whom we've spoken about before. As you folks know, I rebuilt my website, Rhykker.com, using Squarespace. With the new Diablo 3 season launching next week, I needed to make some updates to the site, and I wanted to show you folks just how easy that is to do with Squarespace. No coding knowledge required, just a very intuitive click and drag interface. Of course, if you're an advanced user, you can get under the hood and add your own code, but even non-programmers should be able to easily make their own site, be it for a restaurant or a fan site or an eShop. Plus, it automatically handles responsive design so that your site looks good on mobile. And if you're ever stuck, Squarespace offers 24/7 technical support. So, start your free trial today at squarespace.com/Rhykker and use code Rhykker to get 10% off your first purchase. That's squarespace.com/RHYKKER and use code Rhykker. In our first quick story, pray for your wallet's well-being because the Steam Summer Sale 2020 is now live. There also seems to be a road trip special where you get $5 off if you spend more than $30, and this only applies to your first purchase. Surprisingly, Doom Eternal is 50% off. I didn't expect such a relatively new game to already have such a significant discount. 50% off Doom Eternal, but I encourage you folks to sound off. What are you buying? What good deals have you found? Drop it in the comments. In other quick news, Microsoft-owned live streaming platform Mixer is shutting down. The official shutdown date will be July 22nd, and Microsoft announced that it'll actually be partnering with Facebook and the Facebook gaming streaming service. Now, Xbox has confirmed that Facebook Gaming will not be integrated into the Xbox UI, and Xbox will not share any information with Facebook, allegedly. And I personally was surprised by this news. I wasn't surprised that Mixer's shutting down, I was surprised that it's shutting down so soon. I figured it'd be at least another couple years. Twitch TV is the king of the live streaming gaming scene, and I don't think many people truly believe that Mixer would be the one to take it down. Facebook Gaming and YouTube Gaming already have established user bases. They're better positioned to take on Twitch. So Microsoft and Facebook pooling their resources to do the deed makes sense. While I myself stream on Twitch, monopolies are never good. Competition is healthy. If we don't see healthy competition, then we, the customer, the consumer, suffer because of it. On to some Cyberpunk 2077 news. First off, we learned that the game will be backwards compatible with both next-gen consoles, PlayStation and Xbox. So if you get a copy on the PS4, it'll work on the PS5. If you get it on Xbox One, it'll eventually work on Xbox Series X. This week also saw the launch of CD Projekt Red's first 25-minute episode of Night City Wire, which showed some new gameplay, a new trailer, and had some devs talking about the game. I'll drop links to the footage in the video description below. And we also learned that Studio Trigger will be working on a Cyberpunk anime for Netflix, and that Dark Horse Comics will be publishing a Cyberpunk 2077 comic book adaptation titled Trauma Team, the first issue of which is set to appear on September 9th. In other news, a new official story trailer has released for Marvel's Avengers, and it stars all your favorite faces, including Ronald Duncan Jr., Skylar Johansson, Ken Farnsworth, and Matt Buffalo. In all seriousness, I actually quite like this trailer and found myself captivated by the story. The beginning really makes me sympathize with the villain. By the end of his monologue, I was like, yeah, screw the Avengers. In other news, we got an update on Wolcen's status. The devs have stated that their team is currently working on two fronts. First, they're looking to finish the second Dawn patch, which is mostly focused on bug fixing and game balance. And second Dawn is slated for late July. Then the other thing they're working on is Chronicle, an update scheduled for autumn 2020. and Chronicle is said to bring additional content, gameplay changes, performance improvements, and we should start to hear more about this in early September. We also learned that the dev team is growing. Since launch, they've hired 10 additional employees. On to some Path of Exile news, where the devs have also expressed what they're working on. In one dev post, they explained that next week they're planning to deploy patch 3.11.1, which should include general harvest improvements and specifically improvements to the final harvest boss fight. They're also continuing to work on the Wolcen renderer, which is meant to tremendously improve performance, and they ideally want to get the renderer out of beta prior to their September launch. The devs also released another update post on what to expect from them this year. In it, we learned that Harvest League will be 12 weeks instead of the usual 13 weeks. We learned that Next League will be much larger than Harvest. And unfortunately, the working from home situation has meant that we're not going to see a Path of Exile 2 beta this year. On a personal note, I would expect maybe Q1 2021 for that beta. On to some Diablo news. So, the alleged Diablo 2 remaster. We've been covering this story for a while. To quickly recap, it all started in autumn 2019, when leaks suggested that we were getting Overwatch 2, Diablo 4, and Diablo 2 Remastered revealed at BlizzCon 2019. Two of those things came true. Diablo 2 Remastered did not materialize, however. Speculation at the time was that, well, maybe they decided that BlizzCon 2019 was already loaded as it is, and they're going to delay the remaster announcement to BlizzCon 2020. Then a few weeks ago, a French website claimed they had sources that stated that a Diablo 2 remaster was in the works. It was called Diablo 2 Resurrected. It was being worked on by a specific studio. They offered a number of details beyond just vagaries, and after that, speculation was that the reveal would happen this month during IGN's Summer of Gaming event. The event is over, it did not happen. And then earlier this week, IndieKings.com made a very bold claim. They stated that on June 29th, which would be Diablo 2's 20th anniversary, as part of the Summer Game Fest, Blizzard will announce Diablo 2 Resurrected. They did not, however, cite any sources. They did not even say that some internal source told them. So it really wasn't clear to me whether they were just speculating. But if they were stating this like it was a fact, like they had some inside information. And Indie Kings is not some small, obscure website. They have over 100,000 followers on Twitter. And before BlizzCon 2019, they also leaked some legitimate Diablo 4 leaks. And then as this story started to heat up, we actually got official word from Blizzard. Diablo community development lead Adam Fletcher, in a very intelligent move, squashed the rumor, stating, "We don't usually comment on rumors, but before this hype train goes off the rails, we wanted to clarify that there are no upcoming Diablo announcements in June. The minions of hell are hard at work getting ready for the start of the next Diablo 3 season, bringing you the next Diablo 4 quarterly update very soon, and we have some fun activities planned around the upcoming 20th anniversary of Diablo 2. Now, despite this, Indie Kings then went ahead and doubled down on their prediction, but they moved the goalposts. They stated, quote, "This leads us to believe the announcement is still happening during the Summer Game Fest at Gamescom 2020 opening night, live on August 27th to 30th, 2020. Gamescom is one of the biggest video game shows in the world, so it would make sense for Blizzard to announce Diablo 2 Resurrection at the digital event this year." Now, whenever we're dealing with rumors, I always say, look at the source. What do we know about the source? What does a source have to gain? What does a source have to lose? Oftentimes, anonymous leaks on 4chan, it's hard to verify, right? Anyone could post anything on 4chan, but if some journalistic outlet is making a claim, then they're staking their reputation on it. They have something to lose. They have the trust of their readers, of their viewers. So for Indie Kings to have made this claim, and this claim to have been proven false, certainly hurts their credibility in my eyes. And now that they're doubling down on this, if this once again turns out to be false, I'm never going to believe anything they say again. Now, that said, even if we dismiss all this business about Indie Kings, even factoring in Adam Fletcher's comments, this does not necessarily rule out that a Diablo 2 remaster exists, is in production. And in fact, community member Toyoys brings us yet more evidence to suggest that it is something that is in the works. He found a download link for a Battle.net Diablo 2 installer. If you click this link, it downloads an actual file, Diablo 2 setup.exe, which if you run it, boots up, tries to download, but basically stops at that point. And this is not the same as the regular Diablo 2 downloader that you can get from the Battle.net website. Diablo 2 has its own separate installer, and it looks like this. And if you take that same URL and change the game name to something else or put in some gibberish, it just downloads the generic Battle.net launcher and not specifically this Diablo2.exe. So this means that the link that Toyo's found is specifically for Diablo 2. It is not a generic installer, and it is a real file. As for what this means, that's up for interpretation. But Toyo's puts forth the fact that 18 months before the reveal of Warcraft 3 Reforged, the same thing happened with an installer for Warcraft 3. It appeared, and it was downloadable, and then it stopped in the same place that the Diablo 2 downloader is stopping. And it was at some period 4 to 6 months after this downloader was found that it actually began downloading files. And this is when pre-access to Warcraft 3 Reforged was available to PTR players. And it was about 6 months after that that pre-purchase players had access. So why is Blizzard now looking to add Diablo 2 to the Battle.net client, if not for the same reasons it did with Warcraft 3 Reforged and StarCraft Remastered? I do believe that a Diablo 2 remaster is in some phase of development. I don't know when it's going to be revealed, but I do believe it exists in some form. Now, in other Diablo news, Diablo 3 Season 21 begins on July 3rd. I've put out my tier list video on the best builds for the season. You can go check that out over here. And we also got this week the Diablo 4 quarterly update from the devs. I've got a video covering that as well, but we also got a forum post from Adam Fletcher stating, quote, "Just a reminder that items you are seeing are still very much work in progress. The team will delve more into items and itemization in future blogs, along with talents, as noted by Luis." This comes as a result of people finding the items depicted in the dev update to be somewhat underwhelming, so it's just stressing that the itemization system is still very much in flux and subject to change. And lastly, I just wanted to direct your attention to this demonic Brigitte shield created by Kamui Cosplay, which is a Diablo-themed shield for an Overwatch character. And that's gonna wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to have checked out last week's video, in which we discussed Blizzard dropping a massive banhammer on WoW Classic botters. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. And a thanks to our sponsor Squarespace as well. As a reminder, if you want to make a website, squarespace.com/Rhykker and use code Rhykker for 10% off. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more gaming content.